Hey there, welcome to the very first episode of the Creators Podcast, where we sit down with your favorite YouTubers, creators, to talk about their process and how they go about doing what they do. In this episode, we had the privilege and honor to be able to sit down with Gerald Undone to talk about how he reviews camera gear, what YouTube looks like, how he approaches different ideas, and so much more. This conversation was so much fun to have, and we're excited to bring it to you today as the very first episode, again, of the Creators Podcast. And ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, here is Gerald Undone. No, really, we're glad to have you here. We're thankful for you just taking time out of your day to be here. For somebody who is listening, who might not know who you are, or maybe like somebody, you're at NAB, you're walking around, and let's say there's a chance that somebody doesn't know who you are and they see a crowd of people surrounding you. How do you describe to people like what you do for a living, what your job is?
I mean, I've had the most fun way to do this is when people who don't like extended family or in-laws, whatever, they don't really pay attention to YouTube, and then they ask you those kind of questions like, what do you do? That's a fun way to explain things. A challenging one, because it's like, well, I make videos on the internet that are they're for photographers and videographers that want to learn more about their gear, get reviews of gear or tutorials on things. So that would be my basic explanation. But those conversations always devolve into, but how do you make money? Does Google pay you? That kind of thing. So I guess if you had some kind of knowledge of that, I skip most of that and I just say oh yeah, I review cameras and do photo video tutorials.
What's their response when you? Do they even care? Do they want to know more? Or are they just kind of oh, okay, whatever?
You get a split there, because some immediately go, maybe they had a bone in their body of being a content creator someday, or thought about it, or maybe 10 years ago they were so then they want to know that's oh, how does that, or maybe they even know things oh, and are you mainly on AdSense? They'll have words, it's okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. He's do the companies pay you? How does that work? But the other people just, they'll be oh, neat. And then just kind of walk away, or so
so, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
They're okay, nerd.
Yeah, exactly.
They're later. That's funny. I just want to talk about NAB real quick because we're at NAB. Have you seen anything? Have you walked around that stood out to you that you've noticed that maybe gear or just an experience? Or
there's a couple things. I'm not the best guy for. I like something when it's close to being launched, it's in my hands, I can play with it at home. So these types of conventions, I don't get a lot out of them in terms of opinions on things yet. I feel okay, we'll see. That's kind of how I have an attitude about it. But there were a couple things where I was more optimistic maybe than I should, because you never know, you get disappointed. There's a couple things where I was oh, that actually seems interesting. One of them was, speaking, this is not a shameless plug for Condor Blue, even though we're here, but they have a handle that I saw is operating right now for the GH6, and I'm hopeful will also be available for the S5 2X, because that has been announced to have some features that are similar to the GH6, like external SSD recording. So this handle is a top handle for your cage that you can slide an NVMe SSD into the handle, and then a USB-C cable comes out of the handle and plugs on the side of the camera. So it actually has your external storage inside the handle, and maybe a trigger, I don't know. So you trigger it, and now it's piping 1,000 megabits per second, whatever, into this NVMe SSD. And then you could, even if you want to just detach the handle, I think it might be on a NATO rail or something, detach the handle, use that USB, plug it into your computer, and now your handle is your store, you know what I mean?
And it's solid metal, so
yeah.
it's
and
really...
you could be editing off your handle if you wanted. It's kind of rad, and it just makes me think of there's been a lot of functional handles over the years, and often batteries and other stuff people have stuck in handles, and often I'm just oh, this is unwieldy and kind of weird, and it's worse than the dedicated whatever, worse than the dedicated battery, worse than, but in this case it's no, that's elegant, better than the other option, and it's not bulky. It's exciting, but I don't have a GH6, but I'm definitely interested in the S5 2X, and if this handle works with that, and I can record with the SSD, and they get that all figured out, and maybe if I can use my own SSDs, and my brain's turning on, it seems like a pretty rad product.
Was it the wider one? It had a top rubber grip on the top, on the...
I have already forgotten, but it's on display both at Condor Blue's booth and at the Lumix booth on a GH6 there. So maybe go take another look today if you go to the show.
I'll take a look. I haven't seen it.
It's exciting.
That's cool.
That one was cool. Deity's got a new product that's like really, really early. They just announced it at NAB, and I don't think we're going to see it till the summer. But it's exciting too. It's a new wireless system for like body pack, like a wireless lav kind of setup. But not only is it UHF, digital UHF, but also 32-bit internal float recording simultaneous. So they must have gotten over that whole patent problem that was going on years ago where like Zaxcom or whatever was locking people down from doing that. Because that's dope. So you got a 32-bit float, perfect kind of like internal, and you're also getting digital UHF wireless, and it takes AA batteries, so you don't have to worry about like, yeah. It just seems like and it's also, now that they've got their deities on time code, like they've got their own time code stuff, they put the time code in there. So like it just seems like it's almost like they've built up a little system to where now this can sit as like we're ready to rock, So I'm curious to try that one too. I think those are probably the two main ones that jumped out at me.
Cool. How long are you here till?
A couple more days. I think it'll be a total of a 4-day trip. That's your Vegas. Is my pro Vegas advice, because I think I've been here quite a few times. Yeah, it's like maybe like a 4 days, 3 nights, or generally like a 4-day is a Vegas thing. If you're in Vegas like 6-7 days, by 5, 6, 7, you go, what am I doing? You almost wish you can move your flight up, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like a 4-day and get out.
I guess a question that I have for you: you've been reviewing gear for you've had your YouTube channel for 6 years.
Yeah, like almost 7 now.
You're undoing an umbrella and it like snipped your finger.
Yeah, I was like, like how cheap umbrellas just have like almost just like a metal thing, and you press it and then you slide it down. I couldn't get that, so when I finally did get it to pinch, it immediately jumped on my thumb, and I was like, yeah.
That happens when I'm opening like soft boxes, like the little the things that snap in. I've like snapped my finger in there, and it does not feel good.
So I was doing like and that is, you said like the one that you can see. I think that actually still is the first video.
Is that really like the first video?
Yeah, there might have actually been like a 20-second video I uploaded before that. That was almost like a test, and it was just me like just goofing around for like 30 seconds. But that's the first one where I was like, okay, let's make a video and like structure it or whatever. And it's still up, and I left it up because it shows, I guess, the most difference between now and then. So I wanted to leave that kind of like mid 2016, I think is when it was, video up on the channel. And I did, but the second channel thing, I don't know where the confusion is with that. I did have a YouTube channel before, but I didn't have 2 channels concurrently, if that makes sense.
Okay, so you had maybe then it was a previous channel.
Yeah.
Did you delete it?
Oh yeah, because this was like 2008 or 9 or something, and it was like acoustic guitar covers and weird sketches and stuff like that. And I don't know if I deleted it or if it just kind of like it kind of got lost in the ether. But I've searched for the videos to see if it's still and it's not up. So I don't know. I must have deleted it, or maybe that account got closed or something. I don't know. But so then years later, I was like, have a second go at YouTube or something. I wouldn't call that first one even a go. It was just kind of like,
just you had it.
people I knew and friends. We just posted things on YouTube without an intention in mind, And then this time around was like I had a plan. It was like let's try being a content creator, or whatever. So that really, there's only been one solid go.
So it sounds like you, from the beginning. I mean, even that first video that I've seen, it was very, very. It still seemed very much you. I feel like you've stayed the same all the way through. Sure, like lighting and production and all of that has changed, and quality has gotten better.
Yeah, definitely.
It's gotten a lot better. But I feel like it actually seems like you've really stayed authentic to who you are and how you approach video making.
Okay, that's fair. But there's a relaxation thing that I can see where that video is so stiff, and I don't know where to look or how to talk to the camera or what I'm doing. Right. So there's a lot of this kind of like, you're like, this kind of weird, where it's like, I find it harder to see my personality in those videos because I'm so in my head about like how to do every part of it, like, how do you talk to a cam? Who am I talking to? What's going, like, so you're not being yourself as much as you're in your head. But then maybe there's moments of, you can sort of see, but now I don't have a problem, Jim in the camera and like, and just like, I can see the audience through the lens and stuff like that. So it's more me now. And whenever I get an opportunity to make a video where I can just put all that out, then I usually have more fun,
Was it a struggle to get to that point to be authentic, or was it just something that came naturally for you where you just were like, I don't care.
I feel like when the internet space, it's easy to have maybe two personas. You have an online persona and then your actual like authentic self, who you are, and they can easily be separated.
I think the plan was always, it's kind of in the name and even in the jingle and stuff like that. You pointed out in the intro here, you said self-proclaimed crazy person or whatever. All along, the idea was that I have this side of me. This, like, I'm a goofy person who like just likes, I think everything's funny and just likes to goof around, and I wanted to make a channel where I'd just find people that found the same stuff funny, or you know, that was the original idea. And the whole idea of like Gerald Undone is just kind of like, you know, like becoming unraveled, unhinged, or whatever, just like letting it all go. So it was more of just a challenge of figuring out how to like get out of my own head in terms of making the videos so that I could do that. And I mean, I don't think it took, you know, I made a video not that long ago where it was like I was reviewing my old videos and kind of making fun of them. There was some efforts in there to try and do YouTubery things as well, where that's more also forcing things, you know. But those allowed me to kind of like get past the previous hurdle I had. So it probably took me like a few months, maybe to a year, to where I could just kind of talk at the camera without being comfortable talking at the camera, to where it wasn't a hurdle anymore. But there's still a constant development, I would say, even years after that, to where you improve your craft. For me, it's all about just removing difficulties, hindrances, obstacles, encumbrances, whatever. Whether it's like, okay, use a teleprompter, don't use a teleprompter, do this one video like this or like that, until eventually you can just sort of just deliver hopefully useful content while being yourself without. I honestly think it's just practice is really what it is. You practice enough to where things, it's with anything like that, where you stop thinking about something. I'm sure that even pro sports players can do some aspects of the mechanics without even thinking about it. So they're focused instead on like where the play is happening or something, because they know how to do the body without even like thinking.
It just becomes second nature almost.
That's YouTube as well. It's like to be able to like to present yourself has to become second nature, to where you can focus better on the content further in advance, set up a joke, do what, you know what I mean? Like, it's like you're seeing the plays without being worried, like, where do I look? Where do I point my face? You know, like that kind of thing. So
do you feel like you're most comfortable right now in the YouTube space as far as like who you are and where you're at?
I guess without knowing the future, I guess so. I would say like every day or month, week, or whatever is better, except for when you get in your own head about YouTube in general. But as far as that mechanical capability, I'm the best I ever was at it. You know, maybe there's more room for that, but like, I don't know. You know?
Yeah. No, kind of speaking about that, like getting in your own head, you know, a year ago you came out with a video talking about your struggles with reviewing gear on YouTube. And I kind of wanted to ask the question of, since we've seen that video, we saw some other videos of you kind of going out and making kind of more out of the box content, I would say. You reviewed cereal.
I did, yeah.
With, I think, a family member.
Yeah, it was my nephew. We made some Magic Spoon.
And that cereal was awful. Is that right?
I mean, that's my take.
Yeah,
you know?
okay. I haven't had it.
Yes.
So,
some people claim to like it.
you know, well, it's probably not that good. So, and then you like reviewed a banana, like extensively, like the details to it. And it definitely seemed like you were taking time to have fun, and maybe to the internet or to people who were watching like me just saw that you were like clearly taking a break from the maybe mundane camera reviews.
Yeah, you know, and it's hard not to want to. There's sort of like a too bad, so sad, smallest violin YouTuber problem thing, where like the job is pretty great. If you get to a point, and there's other people who are trying to hustle this thing and, you know, haven't reached sort of like even my level of success or whatever. So it's hard for me to like kind of like complain to them when they're like, hey, I'm just trying to
In the middle of it.
Yeah. So you don't want to be like a crybaby about that, because you want to be more encouraging than anything. But it's just a matter of anything that you do long enough and it becomes mundane or whatever, you know. So sometimes it's good, and something I try to do is, you know, take a step back and be like, yeah, but it's also a pretty sweet gig. So you got to do something. So why not do this? But as far as taking a break, I never really took a break. I guess I more just tried to like insert videos to revitalize. That was the plan. That's how I dealt with it at the time. We can talk about whether it was effective or not, but it was like, okay, enough cameras for now. Let's eat some cereal with my nephew or whatever, you know. And it did help as far as because those are the videos. to take a step back, the camera videos, part of the problem is that we just talked about wanting to pour my personality into things and like be goofy and have fun. Yeah. But sometimes I almost feel like I have a job to do where it's like, okay, but I also have to get the important information. These are expensive products. People are going to spend money on it. I don't want to do wrong by the people that are watching. I want to make sure they're well informed, that they're not, like it's no time for jokes, kids. We got to this is $5,000 camera. Make sure the information's good. Right. And so even though in my head, that's why I put stupid things at the beginning and ends of videos, or like weird warps of my face and stuff. It's like, okay, the video, I got all the information out. Now let me just do something stupid real quick
to relieve.
Yeah, exactly.
Some,
I need to do something, or like just little segments in between keeps me sane, because I feel like I got a job to do. So then I tried, well, what if I do the job and then make another video where I'm just goofing around? And it also worked almost as like an A/B test, where it's like, what part of my audience is here just to see what I'm up to, and what part is here to get the important information. And I was hoping the views of those videos would indicate that to me, like as a ratio almost of like, well, if 200,000 people watch a serious camera review and 40,000 people watch a banana review, then I'm like, okay, so that's cool. I know that 20-25% of my audience is down for whatever,
To kind of figure out where
exactly.
your audience stands, and
that if ever I wanted to transition into just goofing around with fruit or something, that it's like that I know what kind of audience do I have for that.
You create expectations for yourself, so you're not like let down with if you do a review on an apple or something, and then you're like, oh no.
But then you got to figure out, okay, which fruit's going to perform best.
Yeah.
But so there was that. There's always a test going on in my head, even if it's like I'm just goofing around. It's part of a greater test. Sometimes we're testing the dynamic range. Sometimes we're testing my audience patience for fruit reviews.
In today's fast-paced world, content creation has become an essential tool for connecting with audiences and sharing ideas. Whether you're a filmmaker, a live streamer, or a social media influencer, the quality of your content can make all the difference in capturing and engaging with your audience. That's where Hollyland technology comes in. As a leading innovator with wireless video transmission, monitors, microphones, and intercom systems, Hollyland offers reliable solutions to capture high-quality content. Whether you're working on a film set, broadcasting live events, or creating content for social media, Hollyland has the tools you need to elevate your production value. Their cutting-edge technology allows you to focus on capturing the perfect content without worrying about technical issues. If you're looking for high-quality wireless solutions, check out Hollyland's product range. Visit their website at hollyland.com to learn more about their products and find the perfect solution for your needs. Make sure to use the code GEAR15 at checkout for an extra 15% off. And thank you to Hollyland for sponsoring this video.
The way you review camera gear is unlike, honestly, like other camera channels that I've seen, because you're so analytical and you study everything. There's a lot of times where I think it comes across like you've used the camera gear for years before you even like review it, or before you actually make a video about it.
I mean, that's flattering, because I don't get a chance to. But so I mean, I appreciate you saying that.
How long, an average, you get a camera. What's right when you get that camera? What do you start doing? What's the process? And maybe you don't want to give that up.
No, I'm down.
Like what, because when I watch your videos, I often think like, how does he go through all these things in like what's probably a pretty quick turnaround? You probably only have a camera or a product for a limited amount of time.
Yeah,
maybe.
I mean, average is probably like a week or two, but you try to get it for a few weeks if you can. Sometimes you got 10 days. You got to like get to it. So my thing is I always front load the sort of user experience thing, which obviously is subjective, but I've also used enough cameras and I've read enough comments and see what people like and don't like, that I feel like I can both touch the camera as me, but also touch it as like the faceless camera user in a way, outside of the things of like my personal hand size, like whether my thumbs are too clumsy, that's just a me thing, And so usually when I talk about those things, I'd be like, well, for me personally, but I do know like, everybody likes a different camera's menu system. So what are you going to do? Right. But what I will do is I'll find out, you do a press briefing ahead of time too. So I usually take notes on that as far as what are they saying it's doing, who's the market, what are the features that they find important, because obviously that's where the advertising and marketing is going to go. Right. So people are going to know these things. So now maybe they know that and they're watching my video. So one of the main things is I want to test all those things. Are they living up to the manufacturer claims? But then also, if it's a new camera or like maybe somebody's taking a swing at a new market, I basically start at the top of the menu and I just work my way through every single menu item, making sure everything's there, makes sense. Like, do I understand what an item is? If I see the menu, I don't know what it means. Can I look it up? Is it not in the manual? Then I have to try to figure out what does it actually do, contact somebody. And so I do that through the entire menu. And while doing that, it lets me push all the buttons on the camera. It lets me like hold it for an extended period of time. Because you ever set up a camera and you're like holding, okay, this thing's getting heavy, this thing's getting hot, this thing's getting, it's overheating already. I haven't even done anything. Like those are all things that come in. So it starts to create this sort of like ball of user experience, because a lot of people, when they're going to get the camera and they're going to use it, or maybe you're just using a camera on a set, you have limited time. So it's almost like, okay, like how do I get it going the way I need to use it, right? So my idea is, hopefully if I go through and I find all the weird quirks and stuff, then maybe that's why it gives the vibe that I've used it for a long time. It's like, because he knows everything in the camera. It's like, well, I don't know everything like from years of experience. I literally just went through everything in the camera to see what was all there, you know? And I feel like that adds a little bit to me know where you go. That's the reason why I can say things like, so if you turn this on with that on, this light turns off, which is strange. But then if you shake the camera, the light turns back on. I only ever find that because I literally went through everything. Where you wouldn't do that naturally. You're like, well, I like to shoot photos at this thing. So you would like put it in that mode and you would use it. And you might never know that weird light thing happens, you know? So
yeah, because that's been my experience, is like you find like quirks and features that I'm blown away with. Like, how did you come up to that answer? But you're just going through the whole menu.
I just go through everything. Yeah.
How long does that normally, I mean, average, how long does that take?
It takes hours, yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say, you're probably spending so much time.
And all that leads to is a list of things I write down, basically, where you go through and you go like, oh, what is this mode? It increases the dynamic range by, you're like, okay, test the whatever thing, you write it down for yourself. So then when I'm at the studio, I could be like, well that means when I turn on the Xyla 21, I'm not only doing a normal test, but I'm going to test this both on and off.
Yeah.
You know, so then that becomes a whole separate thing. And often that leads you into some sort of rabbit hole where you're like, so when I turn it on, you know, I did get better dynamic range, but everything went green. So you have to contact whoever the camera factory. Like, does Japan know that it goes green when you turn this thing? And they're like, can you send us a video? So then I'm recording a video clip and I send it. So it just you get kind of layered up, and eventually it's almost like you pile everything on yourself and you dig yourself out. Hopefully with a video that's like you found the pipeline of clarity of like of what this camera is like good for and how like this is what you want this for, you know. And I know this because I dug through the rubble to like figure it out. You know, and that's also the reason why, to sort of jump back to me complaining about making camera reviews, is I did this to myself, and it's happened over time by adding layers of complexity to my videos every new camera, every whatever, to where it's harder to make videos and it becomes more tedious, and you start to get buried in more little iterations because of all this, rather than just you know, I don't even remember how to use a camera normally anymore, where you could just be like, oh, I got a new camera. That's actually why I've been enjoying your videos, because they feel more like relaxed, kind of like just like I'm using a camera and this is what it's like. For me, everything with the camera is like, that button doesn't feel right. You know, like and I've done that to myself, to where once you've used enough cameras and you've complained about certain things, now when you grab a new thing, you relate it to how this. And now making a video on that, it's like every one of my videos is like 25 minutes long or something. And that's super hyper compressed talk fasting, edited talk fasting. Talk fasting?
Yeah, I'm talk fasting. I'm just talking fast. I'm just talk fasting.
I got a teleprompter going. Like it's just to cram it all in there.
Yeah.
There's no more time for jokes. So I get burned out, you know, not because it's hard, but because it's like, it becomes tedious, you know, like.
Yeah, watching your stuff almost sometimes makes me feel bad when I review something, because you're so detail oriented, and I feel like I'm the opposite, into probably a huge fault. Because for me, like a camera, I want to know just the few things, like how it's gonna operate and how it actually works or whatever, and then I'm just like, okay, cool, you know, and then I'm like, I don't know, like so many people complain about the Sony menus. It's never bothered me.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like, I'll try to give opinions on it, but really, all the menus suck in a way. Like they're all kind of terrible, and they're all kind of fine.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like they go from terrible to fine once you've owned the camera for a year. You know,
I've owned like Sony cameras forever, so I've never it's never bothered me.
Yeah.
You know, but whatever. I've never used I've used Canon cameras, but whatever. Speaking of like that conversation that we were having earlier about you reviewing gear and then not stopping, but making the banana videos and whatnot. What have you seen come from that afterwards? What is the after effects of maybe making that video a year ago, feeling like things have been stagnant, possibly for you, maybe even a little exhausting? Is that fair to say? Reviewing gear.
Again, I'm not trying to cry about it. It's like I'm not digging ditches here. It's just like you kind of like. You just get mentally done with it in a sense where you're just like, okay, I don't even want to look at another camera. You know what I mean?
I think that's fair.
That's the exhausted with the space. Yeah. You know what I mean? And also it's just I don't want to get down the rabbit hole, but there's so much like in that where it's like there's also brand wars and like the fans that have things and sometimes you just kind of like they're just cameras. Yeah. Leave me alone. You know, like
gosh, guys.
But I derailed you. Sorry. You were saying?
No, no, you're good. What have you seen afterwards? Like, now we're a year past that video, maybe a little more than a year. I think it was like
November.
Yeah, I was gonna say fall
21.
Okay, so maybe it's significantly longer than a year. I looked it up on YouTube.
You know what
the
problem was with the last couple of years is that it's hard to get a reference for time. Like
it's a black hole.
Yeah, it's like what does 1 year ago mean to me? You know, like I don't even.
Well, and like especially going through like 2020.
Exactly. I think this was late 2021. I think is when it was. So I want to say like a year and a half ago.
Okay. For some reason, like YouTube, when I looked it up, it just says a year ago.
Yeah, they're awful. So little information.
They're awful.
And if you have a video that's 2 years and 11 months old, it's still 2 years old. You know, so it's like, how's that helping me? You know? Well, yeah, the original, like the feedback in the comments from the video where the one where I was like, oh, my life was so hard. It was actually interesting because a lot of people share their perspectives where they're not content creators, but they're like, yeah, I totally get that because I've been through this in this profession or that profession, or other people that do sort of a different type of content creation. They're like, yeah, I also get that. So that was nice to kind of get that commiserating kind of vibe. There were a few people that were just, kind of like, get over it, yeah. But because I think some people either saw it as like, yeah, you made it your job. So once you make something your job, then what comes with that is the feeling that it's a job. You started it as being fun, and then you turn it into and that could be advice to somebody too. When you get asked advice about YouTube all the time, it's like everybody wants to be a content creator, and then they want to turn it into something where they can, do that full time. But doing that full time means that you also have to pay your bills and do whatever else, which means there's going to be the stresses and the impacts of it from being a job. And anybody that's ever had a job knows that jobs suck sometimes. They just do. That's the way it works. So it was fun to see that kind of balance of perspective. So then my solution was to like, well, then I guess I can still do videos that are the goofy fun ones on the side. And hopefully it doesn't tank the job part of the videos that are paying the bills or whatever. So it didn't, which is nice. And I can't speak for every channel, but it's helped me relax a little bit with YouTube when it comes to, it doesn't have to be perfect. And you don't have to hold your channel, your catalog like some kind of holy grail where everything has to be done. You can still post like some goofy banana videos in there and it's going to be fine. It's not going to ruin everything. So still have some fun with it. And then did it like, what I don't know, and I can't give you a good answer on, is if it didn't fix me, right? You know what I mean? Like it doesn't fix the fact that it's still a job. It doesn't fix the fact that I can still get frustrated where it's like, cameras, shut up with cameras. I don't want to look at a camera. Like that's still there. No matter how many times I review a banana, it's not going to fix that, But it's nice to do once in a while, and I'd love to do it more. And I looked at the numbers, and it's probably viable to. Can you guys hear that? That's my baby making noise. We're trying to record a podcast, Oscar. Are
you still?
Yes. Oh. You can keep this in if you want, Josh.
No, this is funny.
We had a baby 7.5 months ago.
Does he want to? No, he probably. No. What does he have to say about all of this?
He's been both. I haven't figured it out yet. I like there's like. You get this motivation of like, well, now I'm doing it for the family. Yeah. You know what I mean? Which plays with that job aspect in a fun way. But then there's also like, but it's also a lot harder to do it now with a baby, And then Lindsay's been great looking after him. But there's also this kind of like, where well, anybody that's had a kid, it complicates things in both like you emotionally and psychologically, but then also just in time management and everything else. So it's interesting. I keep thinking about the world of like online content and like what world he's going to grow up in and what it's going to look like then. Like, is YouTube going to be what it is? What is he going to be watching when he's like a teenager or something? Well, like, I've been working my head through, not like I'm trying to get ahead of the curve or whatever,
Right.
but I just been thinking like, well, how's that going to like, what is that going to look like? Am I going to be a dinosaur where it's like, you remember when people used to post videos about cameras on YouTube and he's watching some crazy thing I can't even imagine now. And maybe there's like content creators for that, you know?
What do you think that's going to look like, the YouTube space?
I am terrible at this part.
Yeah, just
I've never been
I have
good.
no idea.
Yeah, like there's people that I feel like are good at like getting in ahead of time and like figuring things out. No idea. And you know, I think it's always created kind of like a little bit of a panic in me, which maybe has motivated some of the way I do my videos. Is that I feel like somebody could like turn the lights off at any moment.
Yeah.
You know, well, they can really. I mean, we could find out right now. We could get a message right now that says, "Oh, YouTube, that's done." And then you're going to be like, what am I going to do with this podcast? You know, maybe we just record it. Where does it go? Do I put it on TikTok? I don't
if you're
understand.
listening to this, thank you. Thank you, YouTube, for staying alive.
So there is that, but there's also just like, maybe they shut me down. You know, maybe I think whenever something works out, because it's so weird when hundreds of thousands of people are watching what you're doing, to sometimes kind of wrap your brain around that. So it's like someday they're going to figure out that I'm getting away with something here.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like they're going to be like, wait, we've been letting this guy
You're
just
like, hold on.
this guy's just been tinkering with electronics in his studio and just talks about it on the internet and
They're
people
like,
pay
done.
are people paying money for that?
We're out of here.
Get that guy working somewhere. Get him out of there. That's not a real job.
He's been working in a factory.
Exactly. Get him in there doing real work.
He needs to build the cameras.
But yeah, so I have this kind of like, I don't want to call it fear. It's not like, you know, debilitating or whatever, but just kind of like, okay, do what you can, be fast, be efficient, get the videos out, you know, grow the channel, get everything done right now because they're going to turn the switch off one day, you know?
Yeah.
Because again, I don't know what the hell the future is. Like,
Yeah.
maybe YouTube, honestly, maybe it's just like a slow evolution for 20 more years, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But maybe the thing is, you ever look back and then you don't remember when things changed or happened in the first place? Right. So like, I know that I've been watching YouTube for, I don't know, like 17, 18 years now. But I don't remember when all of a sudden it was like, now we're just on YouTube now. Like that's where you watch the cool videos. Like I don't remember there being a moment. I just remember it sort of slowly took over. Yeah. So how do I not know that something like that is going to happen in a couple months, that then the idea of YouTube feels like distant, or even if it's not YouTube, but just like this content creation. So that's a just in case anybody out there wanted to have anxiety about that, you know, there's that for you.
So going on that, like kind of anxiety of or fear of not knowing what's going to happen and the lights are going to just turn off one day, possibly. How have you created like a work-life balance for you? You know, doing YouTube and then like having, you know, your son and all of this, and how have you balanced out, especially going from the video that you posted over a year ago? What steps have you taken to maybe better yourself or better your channel or better just your mental sanity going into having all these thoughts and all of these things that are just going through your head?
So what I did is I got worse at making videos as far as getting them out. No, I mean like trying to change the goals, I guess that's always been my biggest weakness when it comes to knowing how to like live life, is that I've always set my goals as kind of like, you got to win the game, like treating it almost like a game. You know, like when you play video games, you have like achievements, and then eventually you can get all the achievements, you 100%ed it, and you're like, okay, well that's all. It's almost like I'm trying to do that. I'm trying to like win life as quickly as possible. But I've always had this thing where it's like, well, then what? And what does that even mean? And even if you could do it, then what do you do? Yeah. You just dig yourself a grave and lay in it. You know what I mean? Like you good job. You're retired now forever. So I think what I've done instead is try to change there's gonna be some cliches coming, so brace yourself. Try and change that idea. So it's like, it's not, you know, it's about the journey, not the destination, you know, like that kind of stuff. There's some real wisdom in there. So having a baby, I mean, there's no win in that. You signed up for like, that's a long journey now, you know what I mean? So now you just have to like, and it's impossible for me to like gamify that in a way that would ever be successful. So I just have to be like, well, it's day by day. You just deal with the challenges of the day. Now that doesn't directly correlate to YouTube, but it helps my brain realize that just like with YouTube, you're just working on a video. you're working on the video, you're going to post that video, and then you're going to work on another one. And if YouTube doesn't exist anymore, well, then it's the next thing, and whatever you're going to do, and you got to do it. There is no like hurry up and get it done, because if you don't get it done, because even if I did achieve it, then what? So hopefully what I've done is change my life enough to where I can approach things both in YouTube and in personal life in a way that maybe is outside of worrying about when they're gonna shut the lights off or whatever. I'd like to go back to that idea. I'm not nailing it, but I'm trying.
Would you say? Do you feel a little bit more at peace about things with videos now?
So yeah, and that's also benefited by the goofy videos. Yeah. I kind of, again, I don't want to give advice that's bad, but I did learn that you can play a little jazz on YouTube and not stress about it as much. And knowing that, because a lot of the stress that comes from being a YouTuber is like, oh, this video's not performing as well. Yeah. Or they give you that out of 10 thing. You're like, 9 out of 10. You're like, crap. And for people who don't know, 9 out of 10 is bad. That means it's like the 9th best performing video. 1 out of 10 is best. That's your best performing video. So you always want to get a 1 out of 10. And you upload a video that you're like, oh, this is going to be great. I put so much time into it. And they're like, it's a 9 out of 10. It's a 10 out of 10. And you're like,
you suck.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, and they'll give you like a 1-sentence line that's like, viewers aren't watching this like they used to, and you're like, yeah, I get that.
Like, I can see it.
Yeah, I see that right now in all the other metrics.
Even with even when you hit like 1 out of 10, it like launches like little like
you get the confetti
or whatever, and you're like
the dopamine.
You get the dopamine, and you're like, oh my gosh, they might as well just like have skull and crossbones when you hit like 8, 9, 10.
But the little confetti makes you be like, I got to get back in there.
You want to hit
it? I got
it,
another one. We're gonna get it back. So I've given up on that a little bit. There's also been some. I've done some videos lately that have kind of like, I said about finding that core audience of like who's going to just watch what we're doing. When you live in that space, I find that I'm still going to get my 1 out of 10s when I review like a flagship camera, right? That's immediately a 1 out of 10, because compared to the other videos that I posted, it's going to get so many more views. But now my like 3 to 8 out of 10 are all the same. They're kind of like that core audience video. So I upload a video, it says 3, it says 7, it says 6, it doesn't matter to me. They're all within like 400 views of each other. Which for an average video, that's like 1% variation. So they could jump in a single day. I've seen a video uploaded 8, becomes a 3, it settles on a 5, and in that it only changed 1%. So there's that kind of thing too, where it's like, I don't care. Like I only care about like the 1s and the 10s now, and even then it's like I can predict them. It's like, yeah, well, I just reviewed a big deal camera. Of course, it's a 1 out of 10.
Eyes,
yeah, that's what's gonna happen.
Yeah. Do you feel like having more fun? Because I feel like for a creator, when you start doing YouTube, you start making videos, it becomes that feeling like a job, because there's responsibility that comes with it. And that's where the exhaustion can come in, right? But it sounds like you taking a step back a little bit to have just some fun has relieved you from feeling maybe the pressures of making the best video possible and having... I don't even know how I'm trying to ask this.
I've always wanted to, like, the best video possible is like a sort of a classic review on my channel. That's where it's like, but it's only best by what I do, right? And then I've always enjoyed, like, I don't know, have you seen it in my studio tours? Yeah. So that's kind of video where it's like it's way less planned, and it's like we're gonna go in there. It's like you're going to follow me around, make some jokes if you want. I'm going to go around, I'm going to make some jokes about the creators. They're going to show me some stuff. We're just going to goof around, and then we'll edit in a video, and we'll upload it. That's where, like, I have fun. So yeah, there's no way for me to have the same kind of fun with making a camera review, and that's okay, because that's the job part, and if you can separate it, then it's even a cushier gig if you can, like, I've only got to review these key cameras because I've been fortunate enough to build an audience that I can now make more fun videos and kind of offset it. Obviously, there's going to be more money, more views, more everything if I just did more. If I just stuck to doing product and did more product, and maybe I hired some people so we could do all the products, whatever. Yeah. There's a much higher ceiling for that than what I'm doing now, but there's a sanity aspect that needs to be factored in. So the kind of goofing around stuff is where the fun is. Unfortunately, there is a separation, but so it's more about it's not the balance of like lumping all the work together and personal life. It's like the balance of like balancing what work is so that the work itself can the big category of work. It's like, how do you balance within it of like fun versus Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah, well, you want to have longevity.
Yeah.
And if you just are constantly just trying to focus on the best, biggest, number one types of videos, I feel like you're gonna burn out.
How often can you beat yourself? That's the other thing too.
That's
like,
tough.
Yeah, like there's two things that I kind of I think I gave advice like this not that long ago, which was that the number one video thing, if you think of it that they only show you the 10 videos, so it's your 10 last videos in this ranking. Think of what would happen in order to achieve 1 out of 10 every time, because if that's the goal, you want to get that same hit back, right? That means you have to upload a video today that's performing better than your previous 9 videos, and then the next 9 videos they upload have to not only be better than all those other 9 videos, but better than the best one you just uploaded. And then the next one has to be better than the last 2 videos that you uploaded that were bangers. You now need to upload a video that's better than the last 2 bangers. And each time I'm saying this, it's now going to be an increasing number, where at the very end you'd be like, okay, I got to post a video tomorrow that performs better than the last 9 videos I posted. And each one of those videos did better than I ever expected. And they were absolute bangers that beat the last 8. It just like,
By the end of that thought, you're like in the fetal position
Yeah,
in the corner of
exactly.
your room. You're like, I hate this. Like,
it's just like,
it's exhausting.
I'm not going to say it's impossible, because there's
Right.
channels out there, like somebody like a Mr. Beast, like that's like their goal in life, is to like, how can we beat him?
doing
We got to
better.
beat him every
Yeah.
single time. But for most people, that is just insurmountable mental nonsense that like there's no way that doesn't completely obfuscate whatever the goal that you set out to do for the channel. The
Yeah.
channel goal you created was like, I'm gonna be a YouTuber that beats myself every time. It's gonna be like, I like to talk about dinosaurs. Like that's what you actually started for, and you're losing sight of the dinosaurs to chase this like beating yourself each time. Don't do it. Like just don't. Take the victory when you get one banger dinosaur video, and you're like, nice. Now let's get back to basics, because the core audience is there. Just work on that. Get that core audience up. That's what I look at as almost like YouTube retirement, if you will. Because if I jump back to my bad mentality of like the gamesmanship of it, it's like, well, what do you do when you win, right? And it's like, well, I'm just not going to do nothing. I'll probably still want to make videos. I'll just make the stupidest videos I've ever made, thinking there's no consequences. So it's almost like the ultimate goal, the YouTube retirement, is to get the channel to a point where you can make the weirdest whatever videos you want to make, and they do well enough that they're above the threshold that you set for yourself years ago when you first started. Like for me, I feel like when I finally got my videos to start maybe performing in like the 5 digits zone, I was like, okay, we're getting here, and you can leverage that to make money to pay your bills, to where you're like, okay, maybe I can do this full time, and we're going. And then I hit a point where my videos were like, I could almost always get like 15,000-20,000 views, right? And that to me, I'm pretty sure I sent something in my head of like that's the baseline where I know if I can stay above that baseline all the time, that I can do it forever, like that kind of thing. So, but you lose sight of that because numbers grow and things, and then maybe now you have a video that like only gets 25,000 views. You're like, oh, it tanked, because you had a camera video that got a couple 100,000. You get 25,000, man, garbage. But that video is still performing 20% better than your previous baseline of like, this is all I need to make it. So now if I looked back at that banana video not that long ago, actually, because somebody asked about it, and it's got like 42,000 views. So really that's double my baseline.
On a review about a banana.
A banana. So that's double my baseline.
Yeah.
So if you can find a way to like remember, you're crushing it in the sense that banana video is so much a huge 1 out of 10 for what you were doing before. That if you can somehow fathom that, it's like I posted a video of a banana that compared to 2 years ago, or maybe not even maybe like 18 months ago, is like way ahead 1 out of 10. Like it's the best video I ever posted in terms of that there's some relief in there. And I feel like the ultimate kind of like YouTube retirement, taking it easy thing is where you're like, yeah, so now I just post whatever I want. And, I get about 40,000 views on average. Maybe I post a soap video. This is a true story. I post a soap video that I think it has like a few 100,000 views now, that Dr. Squatch soap video. No plan. Yeah, that was not me trying to beat myself. That's me goofing around. So maybe you just get one of those, and you take it with a laugh. You're like, oh, that soap video, like it's just doing so well, But let's go back to goofing around and getting 30, 40,000 views, and it's like that's great, I don't have to, not everybody has to get 1 million in order to like, feel okay, and that's the end game for me now, is being able to feel okay with posting whatever I want and knowing that the core audience likes whatever I'm doing, and maybe just holding on to that, and here's hoping that.
So the second to last question that I want to ask is, out of all the years that you've reviewed gear, all the years that you've made videos on YouTube, what has been, and you might not even know this, just kind of curious though, what has been one of your favorite, maybe most notable pieces of gear that you've been able to use that has been a tool to equip you forever? Whether that's a camera, light, microphone.
Sure. Yeah, the funny thing is it probably wouldn't be a camera. Okay. Because, cameras almost feel like the one that you change the most often, strangely, And then the lenses, same thing. There's some great lenses, but I don't feel attached to them where it's like, no, I had a good lens. It was good. It performed great. I liked it. I used it a lot. But then it's like, that's it. That's all I think about those. So for me, I have a microphone, and that would be the Sennheiser MKH50, which I used to talk about the Octava a lot as like the hero because the MKH50 is expensive. It's like $1,200, but it is... It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. And
last question before we go. Again, thank you for being here. Thanks for doing this. For somebody who's wanting to start a YouTube channel, maybe they're wanting to start a blog, maybe they're wanting to start down that creative endeavor, and they're looking at you, they're observing what you've done. What is maybe some advice that you would give them as they start that creative endeavor?
So I kind of have like a loaded advice there. Not loaded in like it's, but like always ready to go. I have ready to go advice because I like it. Because people ask me this, and I feel like I did the same thing, and there's this kind of like variety scattershot thing going on in your brain, and maybe it's hard to know how to do this. So this is my advice. Everybody's got something that they're weird about, which is either just a passion. And I say weird because that's how other people view it that are close to you, your friends and your family. We'll go back to using a fun example, like let's say dinosaurs, okay? You're somebody who likes dinosaurs. You talk about dinosaurs too much. People tell you talk about dinosaurs too much. You're at a dinner party. Somehow you find a way to loop it back into dinosaurs. People look at you like, what the hell is this guy talking about? And even your friends that like listen to your latest info you got about dinosaurs last week, they're like, yeah, that's cool. But shut up about the dinosaurs now. That's your thing, okay? And that's your sign that you have a thing and that you should know that thing. There's other people out there that care that much about dinosaurs. There are. As weird as you might think, the niche, whatever, it's out there. That's what you should be talking about. And it will help you both with the longevity aspect because you don't just immediately make it a job. That's a mistake I see people think like, oh, apparently there's money in this. Yeah. Let's get that kind of content going. You'll hate it quick. But you won't hate dinosaurs as quick until later on you find out how to turn it into money, and then eventually it becomes a job. But you'll at least be able to ride it out over the hard part of YouTube, which is that marathon, because content creation, you said a few different avenues. I assume it's all the same thing, where it's not as easy to just like, you don't jump into it and it's a full-time gig and you monetize, you're making money, you're kicking ass. It's not going to work like that. So there's always this marathon, not a sprint aspect to it. So your dinosaur passion, insert whatever it is there, gets you over the marathon part. So then when you start making money, now at least you're incentivized when it gets to the tedious part to where you're like, yeah, but it's a decent gig and there's other benefits and stuff like that. Know what people would say, find your passion. You don't got to find it as much as you just got to like remember observe what your issue
it's right
is.
In front of
yeah,
you.
Exactly.
It's almost like right in front of you.
There's something strange about everybody. You know what I mean? Like that's what it is. And some people are great at this. They talk about like, it's like when you look at somebody on a channel and you go like, oh, and you get like an immediate vibe from somebody. It's because they've kind of cashed in on whatever it is about them that they know what people see them as almost. With my thing, people are like, this is some nerdy guy. It goes in details. He's super technical. He's super analytical. You said a bunch of stuff too. I've never said these things, by the way. I've never said them. People think that they're like, Gerald likes to review. This is honestly how I started. Is like, Gerald, you're so critical. You review everything. It's like you can't walk through a thing without being like, this is strange or whatever. That's me. That's my dinosaurs. You know what I mean? It's like I review everything. I love electronics. You give me something, I got to press all the buttons on it. And Like we talked about, it's like I've got to mess with it, see what's all going on. So I just leverage that into telling other people who don't want to press all the damn buttons. It's like, don't worry, guys. I pressed all the buttons. Here's my report.
Here's how they feel. Here's
Exactly.
how they spin. Here's what they do.
I prepared my report for you. And then people look like, look at this joker. He's got a report. He pressed all the buttons. This guy's great, you know, and they're eating their popcorn. I'm only great because it's like, he's ridiculous. You know, there's a ridiculous nature to it. Just like you're ridiculous when you talk about dinosaurs too much. It's the same thing. Yeah. That's my advice. Find your dinosaurs and
pursue that.
And yeah,
pursue the dinosaurs.
Pursue your personal dinosaurs.